Chapter 8. Two ermine who'd been left behind to repair the big ship upon the rocks watched Rakkety Tam and Doogy Plumm advancing through the dusk. In the ship's bow, the vermin hid, peering through the hole which had been smashed through the hull on its waterline. It was not difficult to see the two squirrels, since they were both carrying lighted torches. Neither of the ermine knew anything about ship repairing, but they were forced to comply, knowing that disobedience to their savage leader meant instant death. From the gloom of their hiding place they watched the squirrels move closer. Drawing his sickle-curved sword, the more hefty of the two ermine licked the blade, grinning wickedly. His companion, a tall, thin beast, whispered a warning.
"Don't slay 'em straight off. They lives on the coast here, probably. Two like those would be bound to know about plugging the hole in this craft and making her seaworthy."
The hefty one sniggered.
"Aye, mate, good idea. Why should we do all the toil? Let these oafs fix the ship first, then we'll skin 'em nice and slow. I claim the little fat un. 'Tis long season since I tasted a fine, plump squirrel."
His companion nodded his head.
"Right, I'll take the other. Wonder what these two idiots are doing wandering round the shore at this hour."
Eyes shining with anticipation, the heavy ermine murmured.
"Who cares? Nice of 'em to bring a fire along. We won't need to put flint to steel and tinder to make a roasting fire."
Moving closer to the edge of the hole in the ship's hull, he whispered to his partner,
"Let's go and welcome 'em."
As Tam and Doogy reached the ship, the two ermine sidled out onto the rocks with drawn swords. Doogie's paw dropped to the basket hilt of his claymore.
"Well now, will you look in? We got company."
Tam slid the dirk behind his shield, hiding it from view. He raised his voice, addressing the vermin cheerily.
"Good evening to you, sirs. Is this your vessel? Dearie me, in a bit of a mess, ain't it?"
The hefty ermine swaggered forward. Tossing his sword in the air, he caught it skillfully.
"Aye, she's got a hole in the bows, as you can see, but it ain't nothing that you two bumpkins can't fix up for us, is it?"
Doogy smiled disarmingly. Ignoring the ermine, he addressed Tam.
"Will you no listen to that saucy old windbag? He thinks we're ship's repairers."
Tam wedged his torch between two rocks.
"He's certainly a hard-faced rogue, Doogie. He called us the bumpkins. I think we'll have to repair his manners."
The thin ermine brandished his sword, snarling.
"Shut your mouths and surrender those weapons. Do you know who you're talking to? We're two warriors who serve Gulo the Savage. Do as you're told, we might let you live."
Doogie stuck his torch alongside Tam's.
"Och, you great string of seaweed. I dinna care who your chieftain is. Nobody's talks to a Wild Doogy Plumm like that."
Without further ado, a fight to the death commenced. The thin one swung his blade at Doogie's head, but the little Highlander moved with a speed which belied his girth. Leaping forward, he swung his claymore in a single mighty arc. It smashed the blade from the vermin's paw, following through across his throat and dispatching him with a single blow. The hefty one closed with Tam, trying to spike him from overhead with a downward sweep of the curved blade. Tam whipped his shield up over his head, deflecting the blow. In the same instant, Tam's dirk took the shocked vermin through the heart in an upward thrust. Showing no great concern, Doogie inquired as he cleaned his blade.
"Did he do any damage to your buckler, Tam?"
After inspecting his shield's centre boss, Tam shrugged.
"Only a wee dent. This old shield's taken enough of them in its time. Let's search the ship in case there's any more foul beasts lurking about."
Climbing through the rift in the hull, they held up their torches and gazed around. Doogie pulled a face, covering his nose with his tail.
"Land sakes, Tam, a smell in here's enough to knock a body flat. I wonder who the Gulo the Savage is. Yon vermin spoke his name as though we ought to know him."
Tam bent to examine a locker, which proved to be empty.
"That's the one Drilltig mentioned. He'll be their leader, the beast who goes round eating other creatures. He's the lad we'll have to meet up with if we're to get Araltum's banner back."
Grimacing with distaste, Doogie turned over some mouldy seabird feathers and fish bones with his blade point.
"Aye, well, mind you speak to him politely. Aye, there's nae much of any use here, Tam. Let's be rid of this stinking hulk."
Exiting the ship, they heaved the slain ermine carcasses through the hold bow, tossing the lighted torches in after them. Night was fully fallen as Tam and Doogie watched flames and smoke rising. Fire shot up the rigging and through the sails like a hungry beast, sending sparks crackling into the dark sky. Using the light, Tam cast about until he found paw prints. They must have doubled back this way after reading the groves. There's a whole army here, heading off north along the shore. Well, Doogy, do we follow them now, or do we leave it until dawn? Sitting down on some dry sand, Doogy held up his paws to the blaze. "'Twas a shame to be wasting such a braw fire, Tam. Let's take a wee bite of supper and sleep here, where 'tis warm and upwind at the sparks, eh?" Supper was merely a few apples and some cheese, which they stuck on the points of their swords, tossing them in the glowing prow timbers. Having eaten, Doogy wrapped his cloak about him, grunting contentedly. "Mercy me, aren't we living the life of kings, Tom? A braw fire in the hearth, a floor of sand, a roof of sky, and toasted apples and cheese. What more could ye ask for, eh?" Tam wiped melted cheese from his sword tip, imitating his friend's thick Highland brogue. "Och, you're easy please, ma wee Doogy. We've no got a pretty maid to sing us to sleep." Doogy gathered a swathe of his cloak about his face like a headscarf. He began twittering in what he fondly imagined was a maidenly voice. "Och, ye saucy great beastie, dinna fret, I'll sing you a wee lullaby." Tam groaned in mock despair. "Spare me not, Doogy. You look like a boiled pudding, and you sound like a toad trapped under a rock." He lay back and tried to sleep while his friend serenaded him in a gruff bass voice which bore no resemblance to any young maid's. "Och, beetle maid sat in the gleet, and she lamented sadly. My love's gone off to fight the bees, I'm feared he'll fare badly. Those bumblebees are fierce wee things, with stripy shirts and wee small wings. Their bottoms carry nasty stings, they're feisty, aye, and buzzy. Och, my Bertie beetle looked so stern, he didn't think 'twas funny when I said I'd no kiss him till he brought me some honey. He took his club from off the shelf and said to me so gravely, 'I'll fetch ye honey back the new,' and he marched off right bravely. 'Twas some long time ere he returned, my poor love injured sorely. I spread him with some liniment and listened to his story. Alas, poor me, to love a fool, did nae bees tell this fellow. Those bees that don't wear fuzzy shirts are wasps striped black and yellow. We're hey and a ho and a lack-a-doodle-dum midst all this shameful fuss. 'Tis not just birds who live in trees and not just bees that buzz." Tam was snoring before Doogy finished his ballad. The sturdy Highland squirrel glanced huffily at his companion. "Well, thank you for those sounds of appreciation. I'll bid you a good night and hope that some sparks get blown onto your unfeeling tail." Scraping sand together into a pillow shape, Doogy laid down his head, allowing slumber to soothe his injured dignity. 2 hours before dawn, both the friends were sound asleep, wrapped in their cloaks and warmed by the glowing embers not far away. Neither had time to wake or even stir when dark shapes pounced on them, swiftly cudgelling them senseless. Tam and Doogy were bundled up in their cloaks and lashed on to long spear poles, and then hurried off north along the beach.